What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Taron Egerton film, Robin Hood. Robin Hood is directed by Otto Bathurst, stars Taron Egerton, Jamie Foxx, and Ben Mendelsohn. Now, normally this is where I would give a plot description, but actually, I'm gonna choose the plot as one of the good things about the film, because I think the twists that they took to change the Robin Hood tale is very interesting. So they decided to place Robin Hood a little earlier in history than normal. Normally Robin Hood takes place around the 14th or 15th century. This time they decided to place him around the 11th and 12th century, which I think is an interesting choice, because in this film they make Robin Hood a drafted crusader. He is sent off to fight in the Crusades in what at that time was known as Arabia. And upon his return, after he's already been, through this horrible war, he comes back to find out that his whole life is basically just gone. And him and Jamie Foxx's character, who is actually a basically like veteran war survivor who was fighting for the other side in the Crusades, has come to also get revenge for what the people who sent him there did to his people, and so Robin Hood can get revenge on what they did to him and the people that he loved. I think the changes to the plot help the film because it helps bring a darker tone to the film at times, because he's not just fighting to steal from the rich to give to the poor. He's fighting to take down a broken system that has stolen from so many people, rather than just, this guy's mean and takes too many taxes. Like, it's this guy's doing this for horrible reasons and we have to work together to stop him. I enjoyed the performances by everyone a lot in this film. I think Taron Egerton just knocks it out of the park. I think that he's genuinely one of the best young talents that's come about in a long time. When I saw Kingsman 1, I immediately knew that he was going to be massively popular because he's just a fantastic actor and he's so good at the physicality of every role that I've ever seen him in. So I wasn't shocked at all to see him do fantastic in this role. The casting is also just spot on. Like, he nails the role of Robin Hood in this film. Jamie Foxx does a good job. I think that Ben Mendelsohn as the Sheriff of Nottingham is very fitting. He plays a very good sort of extremely serious villain character who has no remorse for anyone around him. I also think that the action is one of the other stronger elements of this film. The bow and arrow action that we get in this film is really cool. It's not like any other Robin Hood film that we've ever gotten before, which I think helps it feel that much more new and interesting, because Robin Hood is obviously a tale that has been told tons of times throughout history because the story has existed for literally hundreds of years. So I think that it was really nice to see them add another twist to that in making the action more interesting, making Robin use a different kind of bow, making him use different strategies for holding the bow that are still historically accurate, but just different. And I think that that worked very well. I'm not going to sort of knock the film for the fact that they used a lot of CGI in some of the action. I will knock some of the CGI later, but right now I think in the bow and arrow sequences, you can't use real arrows constantly, so sometimes you gotta use some CGI. That being said though, my issues with the film, one of them is the amount of CGI in this film. This is like if Baz Luhrmann made Robin Hood. If you don't know who Baz Luhrmann is, it's the director who made the Leonardo DiCaprio Great Gatsby film. Full of CGI, massive, just insane showcases and spectacle throughout that whole film. But it works because that's very fitting for the story being told. And even though it's a lot of flash with a lack of substance, there's still a lot of substance there because of how great the story of The Great Gatsby is. With a film like Robin Hood, you have to add the extra elements to make it very interesting and riveting for those watching. If you don't add anything else, then it's very hard for it to sort of feel that substance that it needs for us to care for these characters and for us to understand why Robin is doing what he's doing. And the amount of CGI in this film to showcase buildings and these big overhead shots and these bridges and some of the action scenes, not arrows and things like that, but the bigger action set piece moments that include CGI, they look really bad, and it makes it feel like even though I'm supposed to be watching this big medieval film, I'm instead watching a big CGI fest at times that I don't think is very fitting for the type of movie that I'm watching. But by far, the biggest issue with this film is how much it wastes this interesting script. There's an idea in this script that I think is so good, as I said previously, about having a crusader come back and want to get revenge, but also get revenge for all of the little guys who've been sort of kicked to the curb while he's been gone. But instead, they decide to make this film just filled to the brim with movie cliches and dumb things that we've seen 1,000 times in movies before in the way that the stories are told. And it's just so disappointing that this movie that I think had so much potential ended up being so mediocre and in some cases bad in the way it decided to tell its story. It feels so generic and bland at times that I just lost interest sometimes watching dialogue sequences because I knew in the end game it wasn't going to matter. We're going to get a cool action scene that's going to be filmed well and I'm going to have fun with it, but for the rest of it, a lot of the plot elements just don't really matter, and I think that's such an issue with the film. I wish we would have had a lot more small moments with characters where we could have learned about them, they could have gotten more character development, we could have seen how they have changed since Robin was gone and since he came back, but instead what we got was a lot of really generic good guy, bad guy scenes that just felt, you know, in line with what you're watching, but you could imagine so much more for the film. It's the failure to live up to that potential for a modern Robin Hood film. The fact that they just fell back on those old movie tropes rather than trying to change, even though they changed so many other things in the Robin Hood tale for this film, they still just fell back on generic cliches and movie tropes constantly throughout the film, and what we ended up with was only a couple characters that really got any meaningful character development, and everyone else just kind of felt like a generic, bland character, which was very disappointing. I'm gonna give Robin Hood a C. I really enjoyed Taron Egerton in this film. I think that he was spot on casted, and I really enjoyed Taron Egerton in this film. I think that the casting was spot on for him. I think he did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed a lot of the action sequences. I think they're filmed really cool, and I really love the bow and arrow action play, but I just think that the storytelling really wasted what was a very interesting plot and just fell back on really generic cliches and tropes that we've seen 1,000 times before. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Robin Hood, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and hope to see you guys later.